I'm Pete Martell. I've been out of prison since the fall of 2008. I was incarcerated for armed robbery and assault back in 1994. I grew up in Lapeer County, out in the sticks. I worked on horse farms growing up and dog kennels, and it was a tiny little all-white community out in the country. My dad was a tool and die maker at Ford, UAW, and my mom worked full-time at a wallpaper distributing plant. Older brother, older sister, close-knit family, both sides, extended families, and had a great life. Did well in school up until I hit high school. Got bored with school and became more interested in being one of the cool guys in the school and attracting all the sorts of negative attention that kids like to do. And found a couple other people who had the same interests in me, and we became troublemakers. We weren't interested in being in school and doing well in classes, and we were interested in being the guys who broke the rules and broke the laws. And what started with stealing hood ornaments and stealing radios out of cars eventually became stealing cars and breaking into people's garages and blowing off school more and more. By the time I was a senior in high school, I didn't go to like first, second, and third hour. I would show up for lunch and then get on a bus and go to the vocational school for metal machining or recreational vehicle repair. I graduated high school with a 1.05 GPA way back in 1992. And I think I only graduated because of all of the summer school and night school my mom made me do, because she absolutely made sure I was going to get my college diploma by the grace of God. So graduated high school, and I was working at random different jobs without much direction in my life. Working at Myers, working at McDonald's, places like this, without much of an idea of what I wanted to do down the road, never really thinking about life lasting as long as it has already. I knew that I blew off high school, and I figured that college was kind of off the table for me because I didn't want to go back and redo high school because I hated it so much. So knowing that I wasn't going to make it into the NFL, I knew at that point, I think, that I wasn't going to be a rock star. We just kept on the road that we were on, breaking laws and stealing stuff. And our short-term goals were the only goals that we had, and it was stealing stuff and doing robberies. And it was the, it was the spring of 1994, so just about 2 years after I graduated from high school. One of the guys that I was doing all of this stuff with, Dan, my best friend for years, he was killed in a car accident. And the two of us that were remaining from that three, me and Sean, we just kind of lost it. We quit our jobs, we were drinking a lot, and this is like actually the point where we got into actual real armed robberies. And it was the second armed robbery that we were engaged in. The police picked up our trail as we were leaving from the place that we robbed, and started shooting at the cops, and nobody was hurt. We were eventually caught the next morning, and obviously we both were sent to prison for that. At that point, Sean, I don't know exactly how or why, but he was ready to like get his life straightened out, and I still felt very hopeless and in a huge hole that I had no chance of getting out of. So I was determined to escape out of prison the first chance I got, to go snowboarding and probably get into more robberies or whatever, because that's kind of what life looked like for me at that point. It's strange to say that now, but I know what life looked like for me. So I tried to escape. The first year I was locked up. One of the close friends that I had left in the world tried to help me and some others break out of MTU. This is September 1995, and my friend Chris, who was one of the guys that I worked with at Tire Man, he came up to MTU with a bunch of guns and bolt cutters and tried to break us out. And he was trying to throw guns in over the fence while we were out on the prison yard, and the guns weren't making it in. There were, I think, 6 of us that were trying to escape, and we didn't escape. The bolt cutters didn't make it in. The guns, only one gun made it in, far too late. We were all apprehended inside the prison fence, and when it was really clear that we weren't going to make it out, it wasn't going to work, Chris pulled one of the guns on himself and shot himself. And that was kind of a misty fall morning back in 1995. And Chris was 19 years old at the time, and that was the end of his life. I was taken right next door to Ionia Maximum Correctional Facility. And it was rough there, getting used to being in segregation or solitary confinement. I knew I was going to be in solitary confinement for a long time because of my record. And somehow, despite everything that I'd done and the person I was, I maintained family support, which has just been the thing that I've got going for me all the way along. My parents, my brother, my sister, aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, everybody just stood by me. Nobody had any idea what in the hell I was doing or what was wrong with me, but they all stood by me. And so it was somewhere early along. I was still at IMAX, Ionia Correctional Maximum Facility, between 95 and 98, that I knew that I was going to be in the hole for a long time, and I had nothing else to do other than calisthenics in my cell or out in the little prison solitary cage, or try to go back and learn all of that stuff that I thought I was supposed to have learned in high school. So I wanted to do that because I figured somewhere down the road I was going to get another chance at college, and I wanted to make sure I was prepared for it. I didn't want to run into a dead end there when I got out of prison. So I started reading a lot of literature and philosophy and teaching myself math, and eventually got into legal research and writing, and I thought it was interesting. And spent overall from 1995 until 2005 in segregation for the prison escape and for my original record. So the shootout with the cops and the armed robbery. Along the way, I got in touch with some law professors at University of Michigan Law School, Paul Reingold, Stephen Crowley, and Kimberly Thomas, and they kept in touch with me along the way. I also got in touch with Natalie Holbrook from American Friends Service Committee. She was a program associate at the time, and she was interested in doing some research and gathering stories and data on long-term solitary confinement. And her and I were in touch about that for quite a while. I was helping them with the report, and that's how I originally came in touch with American Friends Service Committee. Jump ahead to 2008, I'd been released from segregation and worked my way down in security level enough that I was able to participate in assaultive offenders program, which was pretty much required back then for me to get a parole. I was paroled. It was the 5th time I was interviewed for parole, and I was 6 years past my earliest release date at that point. But I was granted parole and came home in the fall of 2008. I started at community college up in Flint, at Mott Community College, in January of 2009, and have been pretty much full-time in school since then until recently. The spring of 2009, while I was at Mott Community College, Paul Reingold at U of M Law School hired me as a part-time paralegal to work on a big class action he had going. I worked there for him for about a year, at which point a job opportunity opened at American Friends Service Committee. Penny Ryder had retired. Natalie had fully taken over the program and was interested in hiring somebody who had been in prison, because we know quite a bit about prison once we've been there for a while. The application felt really natural and easy for me to write. All of the AFSC forms that they make you fill out when they're hiring you, it all felt like this is just a perfect fit. And then I went to the interview, and it just went really well. It seemed like a great fit, and it was a great fit. They hired me, and it was a fabulous 6 years where I made a great friend, and she was a great mentor professionally and just for developing my critical analysis skills. It was a great office to work at, especially for a guy coming out of prison with all of the male hang-ups that we have, whether we're in prison or not. But a lot of our interns were out of a women's studies class at U of M, and I learned so much from Natalie and her partner at the time, Kristen, and our interns about things that are just really screwed up with guys and how we can be better people if we can get rid of some of our hang-ups. So just for being a person, it was a great place to work, and it was also a really rewarding job for me, being able to help out people that I'd left behind in there and meeting new people along the way. So throughout the years at AFSC, I was still in college part-time or sometimes even full-time. Graduated from U of M Flint with a bachelor's degree in political science in, I think it was the summer of 2012, and started law school at Wayne State at their part-time evening program in the fall of 2012. And went through law school in 4 years, graduated there in April, May 2016. And it was right around when I finished law school that I left American Friends Service Committee and was hired at the State Appellate Defender's Office, which is where I'm employed right now. So, like, when I look back at my prison experience, the points where I think I turned it around is like where I hit rock bottom at IMAX after everything that I'd done to other people and put them through. There was some point along there, or maybe a series of points where I had matured enough and I would slow down enough and restrained enough that I had to stop and think about what I'd done and the effects that I had on other people. And then it started to click, and my parents and siblings coming in to visit me along the way, being able to talk to them about what I'd done to them and how my actions affected them. That, I think, along with kind of just the brain maturing, made me slow down and really think about what I wanted to do with my life and who I wanted to be as a person. So there's just like the natural maturity curve. And I think something that I've also noticed throughout the years of working with people or being in prison, and maybe my first like real signal at this was when I was in assaultive offenders program, which was a group of about me, 12 other guys, and a facilitator, listening to everybody else's stories and like the trauma that people have been through usually before they go to prison, and it's usually trauma that's never addressed, or maybe it's addressed while they're in prison now. But a lot of times people have been through really, really traumatic experiences that aren't dealt with in a good, healthy way. And I think something to do with a combination of that unaddressed trauma and maybe a kind of hopelessness in life, a disconnect between what they wanted their life to be and a way to get there. Like for me, like once I figured out that I could do college and I didn't need to be successful in high school to do that, just a light bulb went on. I just got that recently with a friend who's still in. I think he was 16 years old when he went into prison. And I remember listening to him. I met him while I was in. Sherrod, right? He was kind of like my mentor along the way when I was in segregation. That's where I met him. And I remember him talking about him and his best friend growing up, how they had dreams of going to NYU and doing these things with their lives. And he was into dealing drugs on the west side of Detroit at the time and got locked up for that. Actually got locked up for a murder related to the drug trade. But he's still in, and it was only within the past few years, now in his mid-40s, where he was able to get back into college, and he started doing it. And he's phenomenal at it. He's 4-point in everything that he's in, and a smart guy. And I remember talking to him on the phone about his college experience, and he's like, man, I feel like finally I've gotten back on that road that I was supposed to be on back when I was 17 years old. And there's no question, that's the road he should have been on. And he just didn't have that path. He didn't have a clear path to get there back at that point. But now he's on it, and he's doing extremely well. And he's a fabulous guy. And when he gets out, and he will get out, he'll be in a great position to continue with his classes and give back to our community out here. So I think my takeaway along the way is like we've got a lot of people in there that have been through some really screwed up stuff in their lives, and they can't see a clear path to getting to where they want to be in life and what they want to do. And I don't think people have unrealistic dreams. People are sober enough in there that, for the most part, they know they're getting out, and it's going to be really, really tough on them. But if they can get some help with, this is how you can get from point A to point B to point C to where you want to go, and some support and some patience, there's no question that they can do it, and given the opportunity and a little bit of support and some understanding, they will do it.